This episode of Southeast Iowa Today is brought to you by Griner Auto Body of Washington, Iowa. Using state-of-the-art techniques and decades of experience to get your car back on the road after an accident. Car Doctor of Washington, Iowa. No matter who Frankensteined it, they can fix it, clean it, and customize it. McDonald Boneyard of Keota, Iowa. For all your farm equipment and auto recycling needs. For great food, it's your choice. Your Choice Family Restaurant of Wayland, Iowa. Open Tuesday through Sunday. Come to our cruise-ins this summer on the second Tuesday of the month, June through September. Girling Repair of Winfield, Iowa. If your mower is dead, call Fred, your Husqvarna, Aaron's, and Gravely dealer. Fred also fixes and sells snowblowers. B&B Propane and the family of jet stops. CW Tree Trimming, LLC. We're into your trees, not your wallet. Serving all of Henry County and the surrounding area. We offer a senior citizen and veteran discount. Dutch Market and Coffee Talk of Washington, Iowa. Dutch Market can handle all of your grocery needs, and they even have a conference room that you can use for free. Coffee Talk's drive-thru is open and ready to serve you coffee, energy drinks, sandwiches, baked goods, and ice cream. They all present you the award-winning Southeast Iowa Today. Here's the author of Christie's Journey, The Beat Goes On, and your host, John Bain.
Thank you, announcer Cody Roy of NewEnglandDeuce.com for your golden pipes and wonderful introduction. You know, whenever this guy is with me, you know I'm on a day tripping episode. Welcome back, day tripper Bob DeWitt.
Thank you. Nice to be here again.
It sure is. And, you know, we've got a wonderful episode. We are standing out front of the Baseball Hall of Dreams in Dyersville, Iowa. And we will take you inside to meet Dwier Brown, a.k.a. John Kinsella of Field of Dreams fame. You know, he's the one that played Kevin Costner's character's father, and they got to play catch. It's a pivotal scene that ties the whole story together. And Dwier is also an author, and we're going to talk to him about that too. And his book is titled, If You Build It, a book about fathers, fate, and Field of Dreams. And we talk about all of that in this episode, don't we, Bob?
Yes, we do.
All right, folks, let's go on inside.
All right.
Meet John Kinsella, otherwise known as Dwier Brown. Dwier, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, good to be here, John. Thanks.
It's great for me to be here as well. And of course, we've got our day tripping buddy, Bob DeWitt, with us.
Hello.
And this is the Baseball Hall of Dreams in Dyersville, Iowa. And when we first met a little bit ago off camera, I asked you, when you were a younger man filming this, the Field of Dreams in Dyersville, Iowa, in your wildest moment of thought, did you ever think that you would have this in 2025 in Dyersville?
Wow. Yeah, there's no way I could have imagined all the wonderful things that that movie has brought to my life, but I certainly wouldn't expect to have bought a building here a few years ago. And you know, even that I'd be coming back to Dyersville, gosh, I've been probably back 30, 35 times, and you know, feel kind of a part of the community here because of that wonderful movie and the great folks here in Dyersville.
You know, and the thing is, yeah, I mean, I get chills right now. I have chills just thinking about what that movie has meant to me over the years. And Bob has mentioned how he has been here with his grandson and played catch, and I've been here with my son and daughter and played catch, and then my son got in a pickup baseball game, and when they were kids, we were here, just happened to pull up one time at the field, and it was when they were bringing the ghosts. They came out of the cornfield. We got to witness that in person.
Yeah.
And it's just, you, sir, are part of something that is Iowa pride. It goes to our core now as a state, and your part in that movie pulled that whole movie together.
Well, thank you. I had a lot of help. I feel like, you know, James Earl and Kevin and Ray, you know, kind of did the hard work of opening everybody's hearts during that movie, and I just took my catcher's mask off and walked right in. You know, I just feel so lucky. I've been to the field with my son and daughter as well, and you know, certainly heard a million stories from people, and just the most touching stories about how, they had no relationship with their dad their whole lives, and then that movie came out, and they dragged their dad with them to the movie, and they just decided that whatever little thing they were feuding about was not worth losing the relationship over. And to have been a part of that is such a magical thing. The movie didn't have much to recommend it, even when we were making it. I mean, it's about baseball and ghosts, and it takes place on a farm. I mean, these were not things that you made movies about. There's no sex or violence or a love relationship, car chases, any of those things. So, we just made the movie because it was such a beautiful script, and those were so few and far between in Hollywood. And to think that it's, that we're still talking about it 37 years later is a miracle in itself.
Pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Pretty incredible. Well, let's talk about what you have going on here with the Hall of Dreams, the Baseball Hall of Dreams in Dyersville. I mean, this is incredible, this building, and you've got all kinds of pictures and memorabilia, baseball memorabilia. You've got movie souvenirs. It's an incredible place.
Yeah, thank you. We, first of all, I love old buildings. I grew up in a 150-year-old house that I fixed up with my dad, my brothers and sisters, and so first of all, I fell in love with the building. Coming into Dyersville, I'd see this building was for sale for time after time, and I was like, well, what's up with this building? It's so gorgeous, from 1860. I mean, they were laying this limestone from Anamosa, when Abraham Lincoln was president. It was just mind-boggling to me.
Yes.
And it started out as a brewery and a distillery and a blacksmith shop. It's been a dairy. Anyway, I fell in love with the building, and I found out that it's been just a pivotal part of this community, and that it was going to be demolished if they couldn't find somebody to purchase it. There was a hole in the roof here, and it was just raining and snowing in year after year after year. And I just thought, I've gotten such a great support from the city of Dyersville and the state of Iowa. I thought, well, maybe this is something I could do. So my partner and I, who's also a baseball lover, we have been fixing up the building, and we started, hey, let's have a Hall of Dreams about maybe the people who didn't have the stats to make it to the Hall of Fame, but contributed to baseball in a way that isn't defined by a stat book, and maybe overcame great obstacles to becoming people of color, Jewish ball players, disabled ball players. And we thought, yeah, this is more the story that I want to tell. Field of Dreams is a story about overcoming obstacles and making unlikely and impossible things come true. And I think there's so many players who've done that in baseball that they should be celebrated as well. And so that was sort of the whole idea behind it. We have a wishing wall over here where people can take their little dreams and write them on a little slip of paper, and they stick them in the chinks in the wall.
Oh, wow.
And so it's a way for us to kind of hold on to their dreams for them until they can make them come true. And so
cool.
It's been a labor of love for us, and it's given me a reason to come back more often to Dyersville, and so it's been hopefully a win-win for everyone.
How can it not be? How can it not be? Would you want to kind of walk around a little bit and show us some of those heroes, or those unsung heroes, a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we started here with a lot of the players that you'd be familiar with, Babe Ruth and Willie Mays, Roberto Clemente, who was a personal favorite, Ty Cobb. Anyway, but it kind of moves in this direction, and it talks about baseball more as a game of the soul and of the heart, and people playing it in the streets of New York when there's no green grass and all that stuff to play the way that we have here so much in Iowa, and we have some of the Native American players who were played in the early days and were, couldn't stay in the hotels with the rest of the players, and didn't make the money that the other players did, and there's of course, a section here on the Negro Leagues when black players weren't even allowed to compete with the rest of the people. And
in this day and age, and if you're young enough, you really didn't see it and experience, and it just seems hard to imagine.
Right? Yeah, it is kind of amazing to think how recently that was. It was in the 50s that the color barrier was broken. It's remarkable, really.
Yeah, it really is.
And the other thing that's interesting is I found out, they play baseball in Italy, and that happened because GIs were there. And when the war was over and they left all their equipment there, people picked it up, but here he is in Saudi Arabia, and
Isn't that something?
and it's just amazing that baseball has been a sort of a diplomatic thing, a way that America has spread the best of America to the rest of the world.
Definitely so.
And this is the wishing wall with, we've obviously had a lot of people who've partaken and put their little.
That's a neat idea.
Yeah.
And there's a desk they can sit there and write. Work hard and have patience. Randy Johnson said that.
Yeah. And here's a section on women who played.
Yeah.
Back in the old days, they would sort of have to pretend to be men in order to even get on the field. And now, sometimes the women's softball games are just incredible to watch.
And this lady here, Jackie Mitchell, there she is with Lou Gehrig and Babe Ruth. Wow.
Yeah, and these were the trendsetters and the who broke the barriers, and had to get through it all. And now, hopefully everyone else gets the benefit of that.
Exactly.
Yeah. We have a little display on how bats were made. How they start out as a chunk and then get lathed down and further lathed down, and it's giving kids an idea of what goes through here. We have a whole section here on Jewish players. Sandy Koufax, famously wouldn't play on the Sabbath, and
right.
But you
it's really a part of the American experience, isn't it?
Yeah, it totally is, and even the racism he experienced. Of course, you're a huge fan, and your best player won't play because of a religious belief that you don't share. I'm sure he was ostracized for that, but he stood his ground, and it became something that people respected him for ultimately. And I think again, that's very much an American ideal, is that we have immigrants and people of all different walks of life, and you sometimes are afraid of them just because they're different, and the more that they get absorbed into the culture, the more you realize, hey, we're all the same people.
Exactly.
We want to play this game, or we want to have a family and a home and all that stuff. So it's great. And then, of course, players from Asia and some of these players that were, they're playing games here in an internment camp, during the Second World War when
more history that we just shake our head
at. It's
at.
Pretty great, yeah. And we keep a little collection of old-fashioned mitts here, old split-fingered gloves.
Oh, look at that.
Which we kind of love because kids come in here playing softball or baseball. They've got these huge basket mitts in here, and we encourage them to hey, take these things and have a catch in here. We have an outdoor little box full of old gloves. Encourage people to just borrow them. Have a catch out in front of our building if we're not open.
And when you wore a glove like that, you really had to be. That really shows you're a ball player.
Yeah, totally. I tease the kids and I said, hey man, I'll trade you this glove for theirs, and they're like, no. And I said, here, try this. And I tell them, hey, with these gloves, you had to catch two-handed. I have my dad's split-fingered glove. He taught my brother and I. It's great fundamental training, to have to get your hand over the glove. And anyway, it's just such fun because they when they play for a second, they're like, wow, they really played baseball with these gloves. And that's sort of what we want people to take away from this place, is like, it wasn't always, there was, baseball before there were gloves even. There's people who still play barehanded baseball or with those little cut-off gloves. Anyway, we're trying to get a full experience of the game, and how people's love for it is what has kept it alive.
What's your favorite part of the game of baseball?
Gosh.
Put you on the spot a
little bit.
Yeah.
I guess what I've come to appreciate more as I've gotten older, more so than when I was playing the game as a kid, was the spaces that happen in baseball. It's unlike any other sport in that there's this pause between pitches, where all this strategy and maneuvering, the pitcher's trying to figure out, okay, what can I throw this guy? They've got the scouting reports. Batters, they're thinking, what's this guy going to throw me?
Right.
The third baseman, they're shifting in their playing, knowing this person always, pulls the ball. Or to me, that stuff is pretty fascinating. And when I was younger, I was just, hoping I caught the ball if it came to me. And to see all that kind of that subtlety of the game is what I've come to appreciate just as an older person. And certainly baseball has become commercialized the way most everything has.
Mm-hmm.
And even their games that they're doing here in MLB, I think, is the perfect antidote to that sort of slickness that the MLB is sometimes accused of, and to bring it back to fathers and sons, because that's where the connection with the movie is so ripe, is that this is a game that has been handed down. I think you can talk to almost anybody.
Yeah.
That it's usually their dads or uncles or granddads who kind of ushered them into the game and made them a lover. And so I think it's kind of apt that the movie and the field and this museum are all kind of about dreams and legacy, really.
It really is. You talk about the slickness of MLB. What about the slickness of Banana Ball?
Yeah, well, even that is so funny. We have a section right over here about the comedy in baseball. From Abbott and Costello on the Who's on First bit that they did, so many years ago. Carlin did bits on baseball and the difference between baseball and other sports, and the Marx Brothers, big fans. There's Laurel and Hardy, and to think that there's the Savannah Bananas are doing these crazy antics on the field. And this is because in this day and age of social media, it's something catchy to see the whole infield doing some little dance and then go into a pitch and then they play the ball through. It's like, I mean, it was just so funny. I've been to a lot of minor league games as kind of an ambassador to baseball and from the movie, and it's been fun. I mean, I've always loved minor league baseball because there's that sense that, like baseball used to be, that I remember being in a game in El Paso where we were on the third baseline, and we sort of had this whole conversation with this guy who was the third baseman. We were just giving him a hard time. He was, yelling stuff back up at us, and we just came to love this guy, and it was because we had this kind of the barriers broken down between the players and the fans, and I think that's what's so great about the Savannah Bananas baseball and all the kind of antics that they do in minor league baseball to kind of keep the audience involved.
And they remind people it's a game.
Yeah.
Even though they put all the other stuff in it, it boils down to this is a game.
Right. Yeah. It is kind of funny, those moments that happen. I just love seeing interactions particularly in Major League Baseball, where the first baseman pretends to throw the ball back to the pitcher and waiting for the guy to step off the base, and they kind of rib each other about it. It's like it could be happening in Little League, and to me, that's what's great, to see these grown men with all their skills and all their training, still playing like they're kids. I mean, to me, that's part of the charm of the game. That doesn't happen in the same way, I think, in football or in soccer and stuff. There's that, and again, I think it comes from the pauses that take place in the game. You have time to have that little bit of humanity sneak in, which I think is great.
Well, this is wonderful. I know Bob, you're enjoying this too.
Yes, I am.
And it is this, just walking in this building, walking outside of this building, and we showed it in the opening segment, and we'll show it also in the closing segment. The outside of this building, it just it reminds you why baseball is important.
Yeah.
And why it's a part of it. It's really a part of the fabric of America.
Right. And one of the things we loved about making this building, turning it into a baseball building, was that it was built in 1860 in different stages. There's actually 5 buildings that are kind of connected, but it started in 1860, which is when baseball spread in America due to the Civil War, when soldiers were from the North, where it was sort of founded, or historically, I mean, there's much mystery about how it actually happened, but these soldiers were then, they had these long waits between marches or battles, and they played baseball, which is just, so touching that a day later there might be, dead, but they were spreading baseball around this country at the same time that this building was being built, and
it brought them together, and it took them away from a dark place,
and it united the country. Here's this game that people, they taught, the rebels were learning to play in prison camps or whatever else, and it suddenly then became an American game that we could share with the South, the North, and and to me, it's again why baseball is that game that was handed down and has such American beliefs and an ethic and tenets in it that makes it so powerful.
And it brings people together for one common cause.
Yeah.
Yeah. At that moment in time, it's to win a game. But in life, when we're Americans and we work together for one common cause, the United States can't be stopped.
Yeah, exactly. And and after a tough game where you're fighting tooth and nail to win this game, everyone shakes hands. Again, it's like this is again just such a beautiful metaphor for what this country is about, and
and they can't wait to play each other again.
Right, exactly.
That next time.
Yeah.
Next time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's just so fun. Even today with free agency and all that kind of stuff that people criticize, it's kind of cool that sometimes these players play with a team that or with a team that they're against later, and it again brings it all into a kind of just a very American melting pot kind of mentality.
And they respect the person for themselves and their abilities.
Right.
It doesn't skin color and where you're from. That's all in the background. It's who you are and how you present yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And that's all the things that we tried to capture here, because I mean, obviously the Hall of Fame does a great job with all their stuff. I've been there many times, and but we're trying to find the places that they don't cover as well, and that really speak to the humanity and the heart of the game.
Well, it sure seems to me that you're covering that quite well here. Can you tell the folks the hours that the Hall of Dreams is open?
Yeah, I believe it's 10 to 5. I should know that.
Well, I will make what I'm doing in the magic of editing. I'm actually putting those hours on the screen.
So look right here. Anyway, we've loved this, and actually we're kind of in the process of putting the building for sale. If there's any baseball lovers out there who could carry on this thing, we've loved this, but my partner has other things he's moving on to, and so if anybody's interested, we love the game, we love this. We have also the If You Build It exhibit, which is the museum about the making of the movie, which is also fascinating. They're one of our tenants right next door, so we're hoping to build this into a baseball mecca, because so many people come out to the field, and it's wonderful. I encourage everybody to do that, but there's not much else here. And in Dyersville, we think that this could become another little Cooperstown. They already
This is the icing on the cake.
Yeah, exactly.
The cake is good, but it's always good to have icing.
Yeah, and they're already doing these tournaments here that are expanding, because the field is expanding, and we just love having baseball related things in town. And but anyway, we're very excited to hand this on to somebody who can. We have plans for a batting facility in the barn in the back, and a restaurant and bar, and we just think it would be a great place that you could come with your kids. You could sit at the bar, and the kids could run in through the museums or the batting cages. And anyway, we'd love to expand it to really be what our dream was in the beginning.
Well, what's neat about this podcast is not only do folks, called Southeast Iowa Today with John Bain, not only folks in Southeast Iowa or the state of Iowa or even the United States are watching it, but according to my YouTube analytics and my Spotify analytics, they're watching all over the world. So you never know who might see this.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, this movie has been such a, such a great calling card for me. I've gone to minor league games all over the country and major league games. I do speeches now, and it's just amazing that the themes of that movie, second chances and fathers and sons and living your dreams, listening to that crazy voice in your head that tells you to build a baseball field and a cornfield. Those things are so ripe today, particularly with the world as it's become so connected with social media and all that stuff, that, I love that movie still resonates with people so much.
Well, I think you're obvious. He's a pro. He's been in television and movies. That was a perfect segue for our next segment. So let's wrap up this segment, and then I want to talk to you about that kind of famous movie you were in.
Oh.
Bob, tell the folks.
Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe so we can keep going on these day trips.
We appreciate you. So Dwyer, you're in front of yourself, John Kinsella, your character in the movie The Field of Dreams, and we have to. I couldn't leave here today without talking about that and getting some of your experiences of the movie. So just give me your little bit more than elevators.
Well, I find interesting now is that I grew up on a farm in Ohio, and I had this dream of being an actor, which seemed impossible. Anybody I told there thought I was crazy. But then to have the movie that I'm most remembered for take place on a farm in Iowa is kind of a magical, dream come true for me. So that part of the movie has been fantastic. And when we were shooting here, it felt like home to me. All these farmhouses that I grew up on. A lot of the crew that was from LA and New York, they were stir crazy here. But
Yeah.
but me, it just felt like home. So that was really fun. And as the way the shooting schedule went, I ended up hanging out a lot with Ray Liotta, who everybody knows is this kind of intense, sinister, and I was a little nervous to meet him, and but he's so funny. When I this is kind of a silly story, but when I came to the shoot, I brought my Lucky Hawaiian shirt. It was this one I bought used. It was all threadbare on the shoulders. It was just anyway. The first time I met Ray, he was sitting in the bar of the hotel in Dubuque, and I said, "Oh, hey, how are you?" He said, "Hey, yeah." He said, "You're not working today?" "Yeah, me either." And he said, "Hey, what's with the shirt? It's all shredded." And I said, "Oh, it's my lucky shirt. It just wear it wherever I go." And he reaches his finger in, hooks the hole in my shirt, and just tears it. And I'm like, "What are you doing?" And he goes, "That'll make it even luckier." with that ridiculous laugh he had.
Oh, that's awesome.
And anyway, I was like, "Who is this guy?" Anyway. But we ended up hanging out a lot just because, on the days that he wasn't shooting, I also wasn't shooting. But anyway, but it was great to meet Ray in that context because he had such a, that intense energy to see what
you got to see another other side of him.
Yeah, and I love that, and James Earl Jones was amazing, and Burt Lancaster, and so shooting the movie was this amazing experience. Kevin, we would, between what a lot of people don't know is between takes. For Field of Dreams, Kevin would go to his Winnebago, and they were writing Dances with Wolves with Michael Blake at the time, which is kind of amazing because I think he did Revenge after that, and then directed Field of Dreams or Dances with Wolves.
Yeah.
And anyway, so it was a very interesting time in a lot of careers, I think, for people, and I felt just lucky to have been a part of it. As I was saying, I got cast in the movie, and I auditioned against 300 other guys, and it was just another audition that came down the pike. I had read the book Shoeless Joe that it was based on when I was in college and loved it, so I was excited about the audition, but I don't know why exactly I got the role. Maybe I look enough like Kevin to have been his father, but I was obviously very excited. I flew to Iowa to shoot the movie. It was supposed to be 3 days. I was just shooting this one little scene, and I flew into Ohio to see my parents on the way to Iowa, and to my surprise, when I arrived, my father was in the hospital, and he ended up passing away that night, and
Wow.
It was extremely unexpected, and I was kind of in shock about it, and I fortunately had a lot of time to talk to him as he was fading, and so that was meaningful to me, but. As I was telling people, then 30 days later, I'm here in Iowa, walking out of a cornfield to play a father having a catch with their son, and it made the whole experience much more ripe for me because I was worried that I would.
The emotions that you had going.
I thought I was going to break down and wouldn't be able to say my few lines, and I ended up bringing my dad's baseball mitt that he taught my brother and I to play catch with. With me in hopes that I could get it in the movie as kind of an homage to him. But, of course, since I played a catcher, the props department gave me a catcher's mitt.
Right.
Anyway, it's a mitt that I take with me everywhere and encourage people to put their hand in and because it's as close as they'll get to shaking hands with my dad. But,
and that's the thing about Field of Dreams. It really is a father-son movie. And I know I told you before we started, I had an experience with my father where he didn't watch a lot of movies and things, but somehow, some way, and he passed away in 1997. So this was before then. And so Field of Dreams was on television, like a CBS movie of the week. And it was just him and I, and possibly my son, but very, very young. And he kind of was falling asleep, but it was just the three of us in that living room watching that movie. We really didn't say much. We just sat there watching it. And when it was over, my dad looked at me and said, "That was a good movie." And I said, "Yes, it was." And that was that was just a moment for us.
Right.
You know?
That's a high compliment from that generation of dads. You know,
Yes.
if they said something was good, you know, that was, you know, the ultimate. And yeah, it's the only regret I really have about my experience with the movie. It's been great from start to finish, but that I never got to watch it with my dad, you know. And so I live vicariously through stories like you tell me that I just think, you know, my dad would have felt the same way about it. And
But it seems to me, just hearing your story and meeting you for the first time, but hearing what you've shared with all of us so far, you've been on this path. You were destined to be in this movie. You were destined to do what you're doing now here, and it's all tied together.
yeah, I had to kind of look at that when I decided to write a book, and it was only then that I kind of realized how many things were moving me slowly to have played this role
Yeah.
in this movie. You know, my experience with my dad, and so, you know, I included in the title,
Yeah.
you know, it's Father's Fate in Field of Dreams, because I do feel on some level that I was, you know, fated to play this role, and that's partially why I kind of take it seriously when I meet fans and they tell me stories like you. I really try to be there for them because, you know, I experienced it with my dad as well. I think, you know, sooner or later all of us will. And so I found myself, you know, embracing and consoling strangers in airports and, you know, wherever they happen to recognize me and start a conversation. It's to me, it's just a beautiful thing about this movie, and about, you know, what we should all strive to do as human beings is, you know, comfort each other and you know, be there for each other.
Well, sir, you are a prime example of it. Your work and what you continue to do today is just incredible. Bob, once again, I mean, I always say it when you do this, you get me to a good day tripping spot. I say you hit a home run. I can actually say you hit a home run today.
I say this, one of my favorite towns, and now this.
Yeah.
I used to visit that field. Took my son there when he was 7 or 8 because this was my territory, and he rode with me to work one day, and we played catch on the field with a Field of Dreams ball. And he's in his 40s now, Master Sergeant on Illinois State Police, and he still has the ball. So it must have meant something to him anyway.
And it meant it to you.
It did.
Yeah.
It did.
Yeah. If there was one thing that I should have asked you about, or that you want to share with the audience that I wasn't smart enough to ask, what would that be, Dwier?
Wow. Well, I guess, I mean, for me, it's just this movie. You know, I have a lot of friends who are actors, and they had more successful careers than I did. And, you know, I was up against Tom Cruise for Risky Business, you know, down to the last few people, and against Brad Pitt for Thelma and Louise. And, you know,
Wow.
Spoiler alert, I didn't get those parts. But this is the part I got. You know, I tend to beat myself up for those bigger roles that I didn't get. But if I was going to be remembered for anything in my acting career, this is the one. It does just what I had hoped that I could bring with my career to my acting, and that is that bring people together, and that it would, you know, heal people's relationships. And I have heard so many stories. I include some of them in the book about, you know, people who just said, "Hey, I changed careers because of Field of Dreams," and they explained, you know, that they became a lawyer because their father was a lawyer and they admired him, and then they realized by watching the movie that their dad didn't want them to be an unhappy lawyer. They wanted them to be a happy person, so they changed their careers. Or, you know, people who didn't even know that this person that they always called their uncle was really their father, and through the movie they ended up, you know, finding that out and changing their lives. And to me, movies have that power, and I think it's so often not utilized in a way that it should be. And so to have been a part of a movie this profound that we're still talking about 37 years later is really, you know, that's my dream come true.
Dwier Brown, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you, John.
Bob,
Yes.
how cool was that?
Was that great?
It was awesome. Thank you, Dwier Brown. You are a gentleman, and you are a baseball lover. You're a great American, and we really truly appreciate the opportunity that we had with you today. What else should we say about this experience, Bob?
Buy the book.
Yes, you bought it.
I bought it. I read it the next day, front to back, and then we watched Field of Dreams. So I highly recommend it. Interesting history of the man, but also of the making of the movie. There's some if you read it before you watch the movie, you're going to find some facts that will kind of surprise you, I think.
So you know what you folks need to do. It's only 127 miles from Wayland, Iowa to here. Get on up to Dyersville and do a little day tripping. Thanks to Bob DeWitt for finding this gem, this nugget here in Dyersville. Of course, once again, thank you to Dwier Brown. Thank you for watching, and thanks to my sponsors, Griner Auto Body Car Doctor, McDonald Boneyard, Your Choice Family Restaurant, Girling Repair, B&B Propane, and the family of Jet Stops, CW Tree Trimming LLC, Dutch Market, and Coffee Talk. He's Bob DeWitt. I'm John Bain. Stay friendly, Southeast Iowa.